And what we're going to pick is something like this. But the problem with this one is it has too much information we don't want. We can turn off the height map, we aren't even using it, but the information we don't want is in here. So we're going to make our own. It's really easy to do. It may look harder than it is, but it's super easy. We're going to come in here, we're going to say whatever one we were just on, which was the metal diffuse rough. If you scroll over, you can see it was PBR rough, metal rough. Okay, so we have this one, the same one we have selected out here, but we want to make this one a little bit different. So we're just going to click the copy button and it's going to duplicate it. And then we're going to double click on it and say my standard or something that you can remember. And when you're working in a game engine and there's a standard that you want, this is a great thing to have. And the cool thing is we just want to get rid of a bunch of stuff. We don't want to make new stuff. So we can just say X for emissive, X for height, and then we can keep this. We really don't need a metal because if you remember our metal's black, so I'll get rid of metal too. And then that's it. And then we can go back out here. And if we go to the drop down, it's not going to be in the right order. Eventually it'll be in alphabetical order, but right now it's going to be at the bottom because it was just made. Then the thing you have to do is set up where you're going to export it. In this case, I'll put it to my week 11 and say select that folder. Then you're going to decide what size you want it to be and what type you want it to be, and these are both fine. Dilation is how big of a gap between each piece is, and that's something you can work with, and it comes into handy when you're working in higher or for 3D stuff, but for now it's fine. And 2048 is fine, and we'll say export and say OK. The cool thing is what it's done is it's taken those one texture that we've used in several different ways and said file, open, made these textures for me. So all the stuff up here, if you remember, is not even being used, this stuff. So it's just this stretched looking thing. And what that is it takes this last vertice, the last pixel, and stretches it to infinite. And this one all the way until it hits something else. It didn't do it on this one, but it has a gray pale because there's too big of a gap. But everything else is exactly that. And you can see the cut between the pieces. So if I wanted to make these tips brighter, let's say, I could do that inside of there with all those alpha channels and all that stuff. And another thing you can do, let me try this instead. Maybe this will be a little easier too. Is if I come back into Substance and I change that, and it's Control-Shift-E for the shortcut for this, and I change that to definition to none, no padding, or transparent. If I change it to transparent and export, I'll be able to see what I'm like. It's a little easier to understand what you're looking at. So if I come inside of here and I say File, Open, and I open this hand-painted one, you'll see there it is. And that's all the stuff. There's no break between them. So now all I have to do, if I want, is take this and unlock it, maybe copy, duplicate it so I have a master still. Come in here and grab this one with the M, copy, paste it, so I have just this layer now. And you can keep the black in there if you want. You can come up here and go W for wand select and select just that black area. Since it's so stark, it should grab it pretty easily. And then delete it if you want to get rid of it. It doesn't bother me, so I'm going to leave it there for now. Really, the old school way of doing it would be to, let me delete that one, would be to take this, select all of this black, delete it, take an eyedropper of one of the closest colors to the exit and do a fill. That way, if there is any bleeding, it will come to a standard color. But anyway, I'm not requiring that. So this one right here, deselect, I'm just going to go and mess with my colors now. I can do hue, color saturation hue. I can do a little brighter, a little less saturated, a little stronger, maybe more saturated instead. And get that tonal value that I like. And then the next thing I want you to do is put some kind of marking on here. Now you can do that by going on the internet, and you can come and find some kind of texture that you like. Let's see. Over here, And I'll say Klingon symbol. Like that. Delete it. And I'm going to grab this one, copy, week 10, wrong class too. There we go. Okay, so open this up, control there, open, give me my alpha, control and select inside of the picture window, and it gives me a selection, copy, come over here, paste, and put it back down to whatever size I want. And there I go. And then if I wanted to, I probably could just do something like overlay so it feels like it's part of it. And I could probably even take my brush, if I can find my brush, where it crosses over edges. And yes, you can do this stuff inside of Substance Painter, but the point is you don't have to. So now, if I save this, and I save this as a texture, I'll save this as Klingon wood. Say OK. Minimize this. Now, inside of here, I don't necessarily have to get rid of this. I'll just call this master. And then I'm going to make a new fill layer, come to my shelf. And inside my shelf, I'm going to open up that Control U will pop up the hue saturation. Control L will pop up the levels. Control, to make it feel like it's sitting on top of it, I just did this drop down overlay. Yeah, Control L. Yeah, for levels. I didn't remember using that in here. I think I did the Control U for this area and then did this kind of stuff. Turned it up, turned the saturation up, and turned down the strength, but I didn't do it on this. But yeah. So you have this all set up, and let's take a look what it does inside of Substance real quick. If I take and open up window here, and I throw my Klingon woods. By the way, Photoshops do work in here. Undefined, texture, and then change it to current session, say import, and you'll see it's right there. If I take it, I can now just throw it into this fill layer right here. And now it's on the bottom. Okay, or you could put it inside of here too, and I'm not trying to say that you can't, and I do that a lot of times, but sometimes it's just really fast to do it this way if you know this is going to be a one-sided texture. Or the other thing that we need to do, I'm going to put this, I'm going to actually move this one down to here, like that, because I want to be on top. So I'm going to save it again, and then I'm going to go back, and this is the stupid thing about Painter, is that it doesn't update dynamically. You have to actually re-import that image. So, and then you're going to have two of them in here. It's so stupid. But I'm going to take that image we just made, this one, and throw it back in here. It's going to come up with the same thing, texture, current session, and then say import. And there's the new one. So I'm going to take this one and throw it on here, and now it's down there. Okay. The reason I wanted to do this is because one of the problems with this is it doesn't look like it is actually a sticker right now. It kind of looks like it's just, you know, painted on there, part of the same gloss, whatever. So if I want to make this look like a sticker, I've got to do a couple things, or something painted on top even. A couple things I got to do. I need to come back into Photoshop, and again, you can do this inside of Substance, but this works inside of Photoshop too. So open recent, or actually let me go back to my folder. I'm just going to grab the roughness and throw it in here. Okay. See, that's all even. First of all, I don't like that roughness being all even. So what I could do is I can, first off, I'll take this layer, and there's a couple ways you could do this in Photoshop. I can Control A, Control Shift C, Control Shift V to the other one, or I can just right click on this one. I can just right click, duplicate, layer over to the second environment, or the second texture, and say okay, and I come back over here. So I've got this. Now really what I want is this to not to be an overlay. I want it to be a normal, and then I'm going to select it as a separate object. See how it's all selected? And then I'm going to take it and fill it with a nice bright white color. So if you hold Shift F5, or you go up to Edit Fill, which the shortcut is Shift F5, and you pick the foreground color, which is the white, and I fill it. So let's see what that looks like, because the white makes it more shiny, right? Wait, that's backwards. So cool thing is, shortcut, you can Control I. I always think white is shiny because that's the way it is in Max and in Unity. Adjustment, Control I, so invert, it'll just make it black. Then I'll save this as the PSD, say okay, and then I'll bring it back into Substance. And then I will say File, let me open up this, and of course we have to do this again, like that, and I'll say this one, and I'll drag it in, and I'll minimize, undefined, texture, and we'll say current session, import, and then close it. And then now, oops, not close it. And then now take it from here and throw it into roughness, like that. What I'll do is I'll swing this to 3D only. And now, see how much more shiny that one is? So it looks like it's not part of the same thing. And it's funny because this map is actually duller because I forgot that we were using the default. So with the default on, it was at 50%. This. See how much shinier it is? It's because I didn't put it to 50 like the original was. And I wasn't using a map yet. But now that I'm using a map, it's exactly what we were thinking. Right? So there's a few more things we can do. Like I don't like that it's consistently the same value of roughness throughout the whole thing. So we're going to do one thing in Photoshop, and then we're going to come back in and do another thing inside of Substance. So